how you doing? This is David E. McClendon, Gindy of Gindy's Videos, and today we're going to talk about fish I have known. Now, when I was a little squirt, no more than 5 years old, my father took me camping. And his particular idea of camping this particular trip was to take a mattress and put it in the back of his station wagon, load the station wagon up with some odds and ends, and fishing equipment, and away we went down to a river or a lake, I don't know what it was, but we were sitting on the bank and fishing with cane poles. And he caught a fish, and then I caught a fish. It was supposedly a beautiful rainbow trout. I don't really remember it, but supposedly a beautiful rainbow trout. My father thought that, well, you know, this is David's first fish, we're going to get it mounted. Well, anyway, he went up to the campsite, which was within sight of where I was fishing. He went up to the campsite and started getting ready for supper. And I started getting another fish, and like, Daddy, Daddy, you know, southern boys, you know, you don't say Daddy, you say Daddy. Anyway, so here I am, I'm pulling in this fish, and it weighs about 500 pounds, it's about 15 foot long, you know, just like your typical fish story that grows in the telling. Anyway, so now I have two fish. My father's got one fish, and we go to eat. Papa Bruce puts them on a stringer, puts them down in the water so they can stay alive overnight. And we get ready, we go to bed, we go sleeping, and it starts raining, and it's pouring buckets down. My daddy decided that, well, we're going to go back home. There's no point in being out here in this pouring down rain. So he goes down to the creek or river or whatever it was to get the fish, and lo and behold, a turtle had eaten all the fish. My first fish, my second fish. In fact, he had all the fish I ever caught in my life. We didn't eat those two fish. Anyway, so that was a disappointment. We didn't get to get that fish mounted, but these things happen. Anyway, throughout the years, my father took me camping and fishing several different times, off and on. We'd go fishing, and one time our next door neighbor in Spartanburg went fishing with me and my little brother and my father down to Lake Hartwell fishing. Another time, several other times, our up the street neighbor, Mr. Sherbert, took me and his son Steve, and we went out fishing a few times, and it was just a lot of fun to fish. Except for, I could usually get all my fishing done in the first 5 minutes because I knew I wasn't going to catch anything. I never caught another fish in my life after this point. Well, I had a friend, his name was Roger Madden, or is Roger Madden, and he loved to fish. I mean, probably still does to this day. I haven't talked to him in a while about this, but he loved to fish. I mean, he'd fish in mud puddles. One time he fished in a creek, honest to goodness, was no wider than this. And he caught something. Of course, the fish was no bigger than this, but he caught something. Everywhere he went, every time he fished, he caught something. He was always fishing. You know, right down the road, he'd have, you know, poles in the back of his car. He'd see something that looked like it might have a fish in it. He'd get out and fish. Most of the time he caught something, not always, but most of the time he caught something. Fish just about anything, drop of a hat. One day he got up and he decided he was going to go fishing after school, so he loaded the John boat in the back of Granny's pickup truck and got him a bucket of worms, put it in the back of Granny's truck, and drove to school. Well, along about lunchtime, he decided he probably needed to go and check on his minnows. Well, it was against the rules at Crescent for any student to be out at the in the student parking lot anytime during the day, except for during, you know, leaving, you know, coming in and leaving. The only other time during the day it was against the rules to be there. It was automatic suspension, 3 days, no questions asked. Didn't ask why are you out here or anything like that. Just boom, 10 demerits, you go home. Well, threw caution to the wind. Roger and I are out, and he's leaning over the back of the pickup truck looking at his minnows, and out the door comes Mr. Green. Now, Mr. Green's the assistant principal and the head disciplinarian at the school. He walks up, he says, "What y'all boys up to?" And Roger says, "Well, I'm going fishing after school, and I want to check on my minnows." And he and Mr. Green got to talking about what he was fishing for, where he's going fishing, what all kind of baits he liked to use, what kind of fish he thought he'd catch. You know, when was the last time he went fishing? It was a beautiful day for fishing, that type of thing. And they talked and talked. The warning bell rang. Said, you know, it's almost time to be back in class after lunch. And they kept on talking. They kept on talking. And then the late bell rang. They said, "You're late for being back after lunch." Oh, goodness. Okay. So they kept on talking. They kept on talking. And then Mr. Green looked Roger in the eye, reached in his pocket where he keeps the demerit slips, and he also keeps the pads for getting you back into class. And he starts writing on the pad. He knew Roger's name, just like he knew every kid there at the school's name and everything there was about him. Started filling it out and said, "I reckon you need a pass to get back in class." And so he hands it to him. And then he looks at me. And he says, "Yeah, I'm going to give you one too." And so I was, whew, Thank goodness I didn't get suspended. You know, that'd be the first time I ever got suspended in my life. I wouldn't want to have to tell my parents I got suspended over a bucket of minnows. You know, if I'm going to get suspended, it ought to be over something good. But anyway, didn't happen. I didn't get suspended, thank goodness. Well, one time Roger and I went fishing, and Roger had this one place he loved to fish. It was his favorite fishing hole, and we'd go there off and on after school or on the weekends or what have you. So one day we're sitting there fishing, and he's catching, just looked like a cartoon. Throw out the rod, pull the fish, throw it like Popeye, you know, just throw him up on the bank. Anyway, he just about caught his limit, and I said, Roger, what about swapping places with me? And so Roger swapped places with me, and he's going over the place where I went, and I'm fishing the place he went. He goes back, just pulling him out. Roger, how about baiting my hook? Maybe it's the smell. Maybe I smelled wrong or whatever. So Roger baited my hook, threw it back in the water, nothing. And after a little while, I pulled it out, and the bait was gone. You know, whether it swam off on its own or whatever, I don't know, but the bait was gone. So I baited my hook, threw it back out in the water. Roger's still catching fish over here. He's reached his limit. And so I said, Roger, why don't you swap rods with me? I handed him the rod that I had baited. He handed me the rod that he had baited, and we were sitting there fishing. He's catching on my rod. I'm not catching anything on his rod. He's catching where I had left and wasn't catching anything. I'm where he had left using his rod in the same water he was fishing with bait that he put on the hook, and I'm not catching nothing. He's catching with bait I put on the hook, and I can't figure out what's going on. Well, finally he's caught his limit, and he says, Bird, how about throwing me your stringer? Well, I had a stringer in my pocket that I'd never used before because I'd never caught a fish. Brand new. So here he goes, and he catches my limit. He's got his limit, and he's got my limit now. And so we get ready to leave. We're, you know, more fish than we took any more fish than game warden might come along and get us. Anyway, so I carried the stringer, my stringer out. He carried his stringer out because we wouldn't want to run into the game warden and get caught with it. Went back to Granny's house, and Roger cleaned all the fish, and Granny fried all the fish. And to this day, I've never caught another fish other than those two. But this boy, he could fish, and he talked about fishing all the time. And I think about him all the time when people around here come in. Used to work at some of the convenience stores, and people come in talking about fishing and all the fun that they've had. Had some people find some great big old catfish, seriously yay long, that they caught out of the Colorado River, which is just maybe a mile from here. But I've never been fishing since I've been out here. Don't intend to go. What's the point? Once I get my hook in the rod, I'm done. Well, until next time, maybe I'll have another fish story for you. Maybe not. I don't know. But we'll have definitely another entertaining story. If you have any questions, any comments, drop me an email to gindysvideos@gmail.com. That's GINDYSVIDEOS @gmail.com. Thank you, and you have a great day.